Hi, and welcome to the Kid and Friends podcast. Today, my guest is Mark Christensen. He isn't just another thinker, he's a cinematic mind with a rock and roll soul and a philosopher's curiosity. From Hollywood film sets to the front of a stage, Mark has spent his life searching for answers to the biggest questions in the universe. His book, Fungus Theory of Conscious Growth, an analysis of life's formation throughout the universe, presents a radical idea. Humanity isn't just the pinnacle, but the spore of Earth's consciousness, designed to spread life beyond our planet, blending storytelling, science, and high stakes vision. Mark doesn't just present theory, he leads a journey of wonder, challenge, and transformation. How are you, man? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on the
So,
show. Yeah,
so before we get into the book, what is your background with films? Have you worked on major projects?
not major projects. I'm an independent filmmaker, so um, and I'm a sci-fi guy, basically.
Okay,
Uh, yeah, so I just find my own funding, make my own movies. That's what I
nice.
do. And Hollywood's hard to break in. Hollywood's a different place every year now. It's not the
Yeah, it
Hollywood I
seems
moved
like.
into at all. It's
Now, is
just
that where you
I
live
moved
right
there.
now? Is Hollywood?
Well, I'm 15 miles from Hollywood, but
Okay,
I started out
probably
right
close
in
enough, right?
Hollywood. Yeah, it's close enough. And
Things are
when I
nuts
moved
out
here,
there.
yeah, when I moved here, it was about film. There was film. There was a film industry, so that's how
Yeah.
I got involved. I still to this day only use film, and will only
Okay.
try and use film. Yeah,
Like eight
but
millimeter.
like 35 millimeter.
Oh, okay. And
Oh
you
yeah,
develop everything yourself as well?
oh no, I took it to there's a developing lab, but but when I moved here, everything was done in 35 millimeter, including sitcoms were shot in 35 millimeter. This
Oh,
is back
wow.
in the mid 90s, but all that went away. It started in 2000, and by 2010, everything was digital. And Panavision
Yeah,
just released. Yeah,
I miss the days when there was a kiosk in the middle of a random parking lot where you could drop off your camera
the
and
photo booth.
yes. And
Yeah,
and
you had to
and
wait
we're probably
14
not that far
days.
off in yeah, and we're not that far off in age from each other, I'm sure.
No,
And
no.
when I was younger, my best friend would always throw parties at his house. Like if his parents went out for 2 hours, he was having a 2 hour party. And one of the things that we would do all the time is grab his parents' 35 millimeter camera and take pictures during the parties. And we never would think about it afterwards. And then, like a year, 2 years later, mom would go get film developed and she would come back and look at it and be like, who are all these people in my house? And it would just go
You get
downhill from
busted.
there. But yes, we would totally forget to take it out every time. So
That's
where
great.
does the theory of us being spores, the fungus theory, where does that enter your life? Where that starts to become something that is something you need to write about? Because I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and from what it sounds, it's like it was almost channeled through you, like you were in the zone for a good while writing the book, and then had to make sense of it after.
Um, to explain myself a little bit, I went to architectural school for 3 years and dropped out to be the musician. I wanted to remain my intuitive self. I didn't want to be structured by a degree, and I always felt like I had a good intuition of things, a pretty good, honest, truth sense of what I was experiencing in life. So I never really entered any institution that would change that, and just
Yeah.
remained myself my whole life and became a musician and filmmaker. So I'm just pumping out sci-fi and working on my sci-fi. And this particular script, Smoothies, was about the future, what was possible in the future. You're always trying to nail that. Um, and then you have to become a certain age, I think. You have to have some wisdom and some time behind you.
Yeah.
And it hit me hard. It hit me hard that everything was just one fungus. And I kind of looked at the mountainside and studied the ecosystem of all those plants and animals are feeding on each other to grow like a
Yeah.
fungus. That's kind of a behavior. And then I saw the traffic below that mountain. I go, well, look at the traffic. That's kind of behaving like fungus too. So it was weird. I wasn't gonna be a scientist. I didn't want to be a scientist. Uh,
Right.
and and the next thing I noticed that was the Earth does end. I thought, well, that's peculiar. I never really applied that to my life. Was the Earth doesn't? Well, you think
Sure.
about its beginning quite a bit, but you never
Yeah.
really concentrate about the end. What is that? What does that mean if there's an end? I mean, it became the
Yeah.
main focus of like, oh, that well, the answer is in the end. So I just couldn't put it down. I got this cleansing sensation. I was calmer. I felt like
Yeah.
I understood something new. And I kept telling myself, it's not that simple. It just could not be this simple. But
Right.
I went to the computer, started doing research, and I never got up. It took 8 years for me to really chisel all of this out. And there was so much discovery along the way and just trying to find out if we were a fungus. But there's more evidence to it than you want it to be.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because everything's interconnected. And I think that's part of the problem is that most people don't realize that part of the conversation. Like I heard you on this other past podcast where you were talking about, animals eat certain things and that is presented to it by nature so it can continue its path of growth and evolution. Like there's so much to it. And if you think about it, right? Like let's take something that's a vegetable eater, an animal, right? Did they evolve at the same time? Did the vegetable evolve first because you can't feed the animal without that vegetable? Like it's all interconnected and
Can I
somehow
reply on that?
yes,
Because
absolutely.
it's really weird. In the beginning, there's, just we'll just say there's bacteria in the beginning that developed
Hmm.
into a fungus that was both plant and animal together. So it was three
Okay.
things: plant and animal fungus. Uh,
Wow.
and this is science. This is what I found out. This is bizarre that I found. Really? So there was
This is
nothing
after you
else
started the journey of
of
this
the
theory.
research.
Okay.
Right. So I found it's called Protista, and it's plant
Yeah.
and animal and fungus together. There was before that just bacteria and
Yeah.
red
Like single
algae. There
celled.
was single cell and red algae was
Yeah.
kind of an animal. Um, and all of this isn't exact because we don't have all those exact scientists, but this is what we do have is research. So this plant and animal fungus lived for a long time uh, as probably just mushrooms and
Yeah.
mycelia. So the mushrooms, so you have a rocky planet with water. Great. There's no soil.
Yeah.
These mushrooms lived for millions of years and grew to all sizes, even 25-foot high mushrooms. It's about
Wow.
750 million years ago. So there's nothing but mushrooms. Why? Because it's a cloudy planet. It was cloudy for the first
Yeah.
billion years of its life. It did not bit rain for a million years, 2 million years. This is all
Wow.
documented science. So what
Yeah.
grows what grows with no sunlight? Mushrooms.
Yeah.
These mushrooms kept dying and eating themselves and eroded into the gravel until there was soil. And this is preparation.
Yeah.
It's like a system. So eventually
Sure.
you're going to have plant life, and then to get to the vegetable thing, vegetables came last.
Okay.
They've only been around a couple 100,000 years. That's weird.
Right. But there was an evolution of the mushroom growing in the darkness and what it was growing into and it would decay and then it would feed off of itself and then it would continue the cycle and the leftovers would create the soil and then something changed where other things would start growing in the soil.
Yes. So you have to have that soil. You have to have a mycelia-based root system too to help support forestry. So all
Okay.
that started to have first there were ferns, and then eventually forestry, and of course that's about building the oxygen necessary for a human brain to operate as well. So that's the plant side. It's split away from animal and fungus to be its own plant world. Then about
Okay.
500 million years later, the animal peels away from fungus. So the fungus we see today is just the evolved original fungus by itself after all these, 2 billion years.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the animal life goes into the ocean. It becomes sponge, cretaceous animals, and then fish, and then eventually it grows a spine strong enough to crawl up as an amphibious life form. There just
Right.
happens to be enough oxygen by then for you to breathe more
Yeah.
oxygen
By
outside the water
chance,
than,
right?
well, you got the forestry going on the other side. Use my hands here.
Yeah.
Forestry, plants, animals over here.
Right.
And the concept is that you and I evolve eventually from all these animals, and
Sure.
we walk over to a tomato and we eat ourselves. We're
Wow.
feeding ourselves. It's a self-consumption process. I mean, this is science. It's not a theory.
Yeah.
So
No.
we're self it's one large body. It's always been one large body that self-consumes itself from solar. So the only form of
Right.
energy that that process
So we're
gets
all
is
still interconnected no matter how far away we get from the
try
starting line.
try stop eating.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Doesn't
work.
work too good.
And that energy came from sunlight in the very early ages of developing all this photosynthesis that we now can cultivate through millions and billions of years and now eat. It's all together. And we would only live for 4 years without flies. We would only live 4 years without bees. I mean, it goes on and on about really, it's just
Why
one.
4 years without flies? I
That's an Einstein.
understand like yeah, I mean and I'm just going to guess before you even answer it is that they'll eat a lot of decaying materials and their excrement and stuff will go back into nature. I'm just I'm wondering like how like their larvae there's so much involved, like I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, I don't know the fly one very well, but I'm gonna try to
Yeah,
do some research on that. But
sure.
the pollination of bees would stop, and then we would lose plant life and slowly die. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of research behind that. But here's the way to look at it. Let's take a new way to look at it. It's one animal
Hmm.
developing through billions of years, 2 billion years basically, and we're here today. So all this animal and life form and the ecosystem that feeds on itself all helps support the growth of one particular animal that
Right.
that supersedes all them naturally because we're king of the mountain here, but really we're the only ones that are capable of leaving the planet. Can we have
Yeah,
astronauts in space right now? There will always be
sure.
a male and a female in space forever. Did you ever think of that?
No. No, is
Yes.
that something that somebody thought intentionally in case the world ends while they're up in space?
Well, why not? Why not have that
Yeah,
safety? And do you know
never even
about this?
occurred to me.
Yeah, do you know about the seed bank in Antarctica?
I've
They
heard of the
got
seed bank.
well, that's handy because if something happens down here and the whole world ends, we got Mrs. Johnny and Appleseed up in space to come down and replant the earth and re-inhabit the earth. I mean, this one
Yeah,
precaution that NASA's thinking about. I
sure.
put it together,
What?
but they got to be thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, it never occurred to me that you know you always and there's some movie that's coming out soon. I don't remember what it is, where it involves the Earth is ending and there's astronauts in space, and it might be a movie that was already out. I
I
saw a preview for it for the other day,
I saw the preview of
and
it
there's
too.
one guy left on Earth, and he's trying to connect with these people to tell them not to come back because it's not ready for them. But I love the idea of the preparation for possible ending of everything, having a male and female, and I would think both would have to be fertile, so they could possibly have babies. But there also needs to be some sort of survival skills, and seeds would certainly jump that to the front of the list if you have that ability to have your own plant life.
Hmm.
It's interesting because when COVID hit and everybody was doing all their shopping and everything and getting all your stuff, I was about a month ahead of the curve. For some reason, I saw what was coming and I started preparing and just having stuff in
Awesome.
the house.
Hmm.
And I had bought a bunch of seeds at Home Depot of all
Oh,
different kinds of
wow.
stuff. And my wife is like, "What are those for?" I'm like,
Like a prepper? You were prepping?
"Yeah, but I'm not a
Yeah.
prepper." But like certain parts of me were telling I needed to have certain things. COVID came and passed, and all the seeds are still in my garage. She's like, "Can you throw these away? You're not going to use them." I'm like, "No, I'm not going to throw them away. There might be a time when we need these things." And
Yeah.
I think everybody personally should have some sort of seed bank, but one that is for the global folks, like that, meaning everyone that's connected to everybody. That's really important, and just in case shit hits the fan.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
You never
so
know.
according to your theory, like everything is it's a slow evolution from the fungi to where we are now, but it's all pushing us in a direction until we're ready to leave this earth and go elsewhere and create
Ah,
something else.
can I go off on that word ready?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, there's two things that need to be ready. It's called technical evacuation standards, right?
Okay.
So we have astronauts in space stations right now. Can we live in there for very long? 2 years max, and that's with
Right.
symptoms for the rest of your life. Scott Kelly,
Yeah. Because your
astronaut,
body will
complains.
change.
Well, Scott Kelly, he was up there for 2 years. He's complaining constantly for the rest of his life. In fact, even
Yeah.
just things against his skin would be painful.
Is he
You should
the
read
one
up on
that's a
this.
twin?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
he's
I've read about that. Like I think he lost gained height, his bone density cut in half. Like
mhm,
there was all kinds of things that changed, and the beauty of it was that his twin brother stayed on Earth, and that he was in
it's
space, so they
beautiful.
could get an adequate idea of what it does to the body. Because if you only had the one body, you wouldn't get a true result because those two are exact DNA and they're
It's a
going through
great
the same
study,
exact time. Yeah,
but
it's a fantastic one.
it's teaching us that we cannot live in space very long. So
Yeah,
NASA's on it. If you're going to have an astronaut live longer than 2 years in space, you got to make some adjustments, some genetic
sure.
changes, right? So let's talk about the technical evacuation standards and ESS, which is eternal self-sufficiency. So why leave the planet if you're just going to last 1,000 years? You want to last
Right.
for eternity. It's two goals here. One is to get off and get off and live forever. So to reach those two things, you need a lot of time and technology. Uh,
Hmm.
there is a time window. There's a temperature time window to where no more carbon-based life forms will exist anymore.
Right.
And
As the
yes,
sun nears its end, it will start to expand and then there'll be more heat on this planet and
mm,
eventually it will engulf us. And there's also the theory of, is it Venus that at some point was more like Earth than we are now? And what if we're originally from there and we're the spores that came here to continue life because we were the next closest planet?
yeah, they're great theories and I love them, but mathematically it's impossible to, that's called panspermia. But
Yeah.
it's impossible for a life to start. Well, there is life there. They found microbes up in the clouds where the temperature
Yeah.
allows for microbes to live. So
Hmm.
that's one way of gauging it. And we're just getting close to finding microbes on Mars, which is the reverse. It's frozen.
Yeah.
So Mars was the candidate, really. Uh, Venus doesn't spin. It takes 1 year to get one rotation.
Okay.
So
It's
it just
locked.
isn't right. It's kind of. And Mars is cool, but it was too cold to begin with, but enough to flow water for a while. And as it cooled down, Earth became more incubable and
Yeah.
started to cool down to where it could start forming its bacteria. But so that time window is called narcobiocene.
Okay.
It's a biocene. It's narco meaning death, and slowly but surely, all biological life forms will stop being able to reproduce, and it's going to be all the plant life at first, and then eventually all the animal life, and what will be left in the end is the same bacteria that the Earth started with, right? Because those are
Right.
bookends. They're heat bookends. So
Okay.
we don't really have to prepare ourselves. It's a juggernaut, slow juggernaut of us doing what's necessary every year, every decade and century
Yeah.
to meet those technical standards. This is going to be very obvious and slow. And whoever created us, and put us under this, inevitable condition, because this is absolute. But whoever
Yeah.
did this to us didn't say, well, it's not going to be impossible for you to do it, but he's not going to make it a lazy process. You see that?
Yeah.
You
It's
feel
going to take
that?
a little bit of work. Yeah.
It's going to take a lot of work, but you can't really relax about it, and
Right.
if you study manpower, which is the most valuable resource on the planet, manpower itself, that is where you really can get things to evolve and work. And uh, man can't relax anywhere on the planet. We work 6-day weeks in America. We should be
Hmm.
working 4 if it's America, right? It's a
Right.
phenomenon that the fungus knows that it's got a certain temperature time window, and everyone has to keep working to reach it because the potential for us to not make it in time is there. In fact, we're
For
scheduled to
sure.
burn now. We're scheduled to burn now. It's
Yeah.
all over now. Just go to the beach, right? So on
Yeah.
that notion, if you can embody that notion, then you can say, "Oh, I get it. That's why we work 6-day weeks. That's why we love technology to save us from what's inevitable. And what is that? That's the end.
Yeah.
That's what it's
I think
all.
most people are caught in the machine that they don't even realize that the ultimate goal is to perpetuate life and move it somewhere else eventually.
Well, they haven't put the physics together yet. Like you said, it's
Yeah.
about science being kind of more of a pop culture thing now.
Well, I think people in general are oblivious to it, like what's going on,
Totally.
especially people that are so caught up in the day-to-day parts of life and like social media and their job and everything else. They're
Yeah.
not, a lot of people don't see the big picture. And I feel like just in the last like 2 or 3 years, maybe 5 years, people's eyes are opening up to the potential, like spiritually for starters. Secondly, for what the possibility of things are out there in the universe, and it's way bigger than we think it is. I heard you mention on a podcast that I don't remember the term you used, but it's egotistical to think that we're the only things out there. And
It's
like
egocentric. Yeah.
egocentric. Yeah. Okay.
But it's also part of the structure. So if you and I had a handbook from like another alien life form that did all this, right? Because
Hmm.
their planet's going to burn too, right?
Yeah.
They're under the same situation we are. They've got to get off in a certain amount of time and did it. So
Right.
they're aliens. I'm just picturing this for you. They're aliens. Their
Sure.
planet's gone, right? So
Yeah.
they got a handbook. So they come to you and they say, look, your planet's going to burn. Here's a handbook on how to get off. That would be ideal, but even that
Right.
is impossible to have happen through
Yeah.
communication and understanding and logic. It's like us trying to hand a helicopter to an indigenous tribe who's never even seen society, and there's still a couple on
Yeah.
Earth. Hand them a
Oh, for
Toyota
sure.
and give them the keys. It's like same thing. It's just a
Yeah.
huge gap, and this is a safety. This is a safety barrier. The creator put this in so that you and I and our human culture own all our technology. We have to own it to
Okay.
use it, and we need to own it to use it forever because that's the
Right.
biosphere we're going to
We're
leave
the
behind.
ones crafting whatever tools it are. We're the ones who should understand it versus
Right.
someone handing us like the first time somebody hands you a calculator and you're 5 years old, right? You look at it, you're like, "Whoa, I don't know what this means. I can spell shell oil backwards upside down on it or something
Right.
along those lines or hello." But like the
Yeah.
practical use of it doesn't make any sense because either you can't comprehend it because your intelligence isn't where it's at yet, or B, you it's just beyond anything that you can comprehend at all. And there may be things like that presented to us already, and we just don't know what they are, and just
Well,
wouldn't even recognize them if we saw them.
that's a new point. See, it's the growth of consciousness is literally tied to the technology within it. So you and I
Yeah.
could think, oh, I'm going to find a higher consciousness. That's really
Mm.
kind of a drug related thing. Um,
Yeah.
and you may feel like you've reached a higher consciousness, but what are you doing with it? It's about action. And the higher consciousness that is achieved can only be achieved through the next truly true innovation or invention of
Hmm.
technology.
Okay.
And it's stair stepped. If you look at the last 2,000 years since Rome, you can see all the inventions allowing us to become more conscious, more aware, more technology, more conscious, more aware in that order.
Right.
Um, but back to your relating to this concept and why people can't. You're raising kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're one of the child bearers who are consumed with the psychology of these people's minds and how to structure that in a very safe mode. So you're kind of locked into the ability of not being able to really make a science out of the world. You can, but I'm just saying most people
Yeah.
they're religious and they're all those things that really what it takes to really focus on what the fungus really wants is reproduction first.
Right.
See, so there's a mentality rate about with that majority doing that, and that is the supercluster of humanity. So that
Hmm.
mentality can't change, right? Because then you start pulling away from their job.
Right.
See,
You
so
lose the ultimate goal, the vision of it.
which is making those kids turn out right. You can only
Yeah.
have one really goal in your head. So I think the fungus needs that naivety about science in order to reproduce kids first. I mean, if everybody were really intelligent, every parent really intelligent, they wouldn't even have a kid. I'm just throwing that out there. They would probably would we would be decreasing in population, and that's not what the fungus
Yeah.
wants. The fungus
Right.
wants
It wants
reproduction
more.
first. Well, reproduction first,
Yeah.
technology second. And if
Sure.
you look at the rate of Islam and Muslim communities, it's 8 to 1. In 100 years, we're all Muslim. Those are the numbers
Right.
right now. So you figure,
Wow.
well, it's about reproduction, and the fungus internally knows this. It knows that. So if we're watching this happen, then the fungus wants this to happen. But
Right.
why would Christianity and all the things that made technology, which is not a lot out of the Middle East, really small, mostly Northern Europe.
Sure.
Why would the fungus want to reduce that and increase something that's not really producing much to get off the planet? It's kind of bizarre,
Right. Yeah.
right?
If you're going 8 to 1, 100 years from now, there's less people that are looking to create and find ways off of the planet because the belief system is not the same that the
Good point.
fungus is working towards, where you're trying to get people off the planet. They're pretty much going to lock into whatever their beliefs are, and the ultimate
Could be
goal
the
gets
end of the
lost.
fungus, right? Could be the end of the
Yeah.
fungus. But the fungus
Yeah.
isn't dumb. It's doing this now, but it's not later. And we just have, we just have to trust that. Because
Yeah.
the fungus doesn't want to not be successful with leaving the planet.
Sure.
In concept, there was an original fungus, and in the end, there will just be a few spore humans that can leave. That's really the whole picture, and everything happens
Yeah.
in between. We're right in the middle of it, kind of.
And you mentioned a creator a few times earlier in the conversation. What is your definition of creator? And the reason I'm asking this, like literally right before we got on this call, I was on Instagram and I was watching a guy. I can't remember the term. It was a Sufi or Sufa. I can't remember the exact term of what he was, but he was talking about how none of the religions really exist. It's all the same at the end of the day, which is the creator who is the one, and just how everybody perceived
Easy
whatever it
answer.
is and got there. Yeah.
Easy
Because
answer.
what's your answer?
Oh, whenever you're ready. Okay, so um, here's the evidence. Okay, you've been
Yeah.
created, so there's no denying that you have a creator,
Yes.
right? And that's
Yeah.
for me, that's all the God you need to know. That's the
Yeah.
most healthiest way to look at it, because now you can live your life accountably and responsibly for yourself without a teacher or a parent telling you what to do. See, it's
Right.
your life, like you
Yeah.
said. If you knew anything more than that, you would borrow or blame or point, and
For
you
sure.
wouldn't. Yeah.
Like
So
the way I think of it is, let's take the human body for an example, right?
mhm,
You have skin, which protects your inside. It also has
membrane.
membrane on it. You can feel touch, you can feel pain, you can feel heat, all designed to protect you. You have you have a set of eyes that you can guide yourself through the world with. You have hearing, you have a fuel intake, you have a waste output, you have a central processor, you run on hydraulics. Like there's so much involved just in the
So
science of a
cool.
person. Right.
So
And then when
cool.
you go on to like a molecular level, you ever watch like macro videos of like proteins moving? It's got this long stem and it's just got feet and it's walking. It's got its own life. And
Right.
and life goes up and down. Like I have a fascination with tardigrades, which are
Yep.
known as a water bear, right? And they
hmm
live their lives. They have no idea what they're on or what they're in, and it's all connected though. And uh, I was watching
We
something
need
the other
some.
day.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
need some
yeah,
of that DNA. We need some of that DNA to be space-bearing animals. See, when the genetics
yes,
come into play, you can tell they're going to borrow a lot of things from the rest of the fungus to make us live longer in space. Go ahead.
yeah. But it's all intertwined. Like everything. It's amazing how intertwined it is. Just the construction of your body. You think of
Yeah,
every different animal that's on the planet, they all have similar features, even though some of them are not related at all, right?
because
Like
they were.
certain things worked, so let's put them in the other stuff, right? Like it's all connected.
That's the evolutionary process. You trial and error what's eventually going to be a human. You pre-trial those things. Do we need
Yeah.
claws? Well, that's not going to help a human. So eventually primates came with fingernails. That had to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
So the fungus is going through every life form uh, and using it to experiment on how to design that human. every
Yeah.
millennial after millennial, finally, and very slowly, you and I arrive from all that experimentation. So we're looking at the aftermath of that. Birds used to be
Yeah.
dinosaurs. That's an
Right.
aftermath of that reptilian period of experimentation to develop, first of all, a brain size capable, because the human
Right.
is the has the biggest brain per body weight, which was by design. And but you had to go through all those animal
Yeah.
brain forms to get to a brain that would eventually be like on a pole and bulbous, so it can grow around
Right.
and have all of its
And be able to
areas.
turn it and then get to a point where you can walk on 2 feet and you have a
Right,
prehensile thumb that suddenly you have where you can grab things. Like to me, it's
right.
it's amazing. And like I was also watching something the stuff I watch at night before bed makes my wife nuts. Like, but it's always some sort of learning stuff. I was watching a scientist the other day. He was talking about the biomes in your body, right? Things that are not made of human DNA. There's more of it in your body than there is actual human DNA based on all of the cells that are in your
Hmm.
body, like your stomach flora.
Interesting.
Like there's so much involved, but it's almost like we're in symbiosis with all these things, whether we know it or not, because we're all working together towards that same
Yeah.
goal that you're talking about, where we hit our peak evolution, where we're able to leave this planet and then continue whatever we're supposed to become next.
Right. And it's an enforced process. It's not like humanity's being smart in doing it. We're actually going to be kind of forced to go. I call it the oh duh method.
Yeah.
Oh duh, move over there. Oh duh, grab that. And I think the fungus needs to rely on that brand of intelligence because that's how it's an automatic growth process. Like a tree
Right.
doesn't all of a sudden get a growth spurt. A tree starts with a seed, and then it's got roots, and then it's got a
Hmm.
trunk, and then it's got leaves, and then it's got its product, right?
Hmm.
In that slow order, it's very natural. So humanity is going to get off the planet in that much of a natural process as well.
Yeah.
It's not like this
And
unless a meteorite hits again. Yeah.
yeah, I'm of the belief that we have been extinguished so many times. Like we're aware of six uh, mass extinctions, but there's probably been way more than that. Like we hit a certain level
There's
of
many
development
extinctions.
where,
Yeah.
yeah, but probably way more than we know of. Like we still don't know where the pyramids came from. Like there's so many things where we've probably gotten to a point where we have the technology to do good, but we wind up blowing ourselves up or something. We start over, and we've probably started over a number of times. And at some point, we're going to get to that perfect evolution where science and intelligence meet in the middle, and we're able to take that elsewhere. Like, for example, like I heard you talking about the grays, aliens. Um, I was listening to a podcast a few weeks ago, and they were saying about if we move to Mars and we inhabit Mars, let's say for 50 years, everything about that planet is different. Gravity, like the way sunlight works, like everything's slightly different than what it
It,
is here.
it's
We're going to evolve to
134
that.
degrees below zero on a
Yeah,
sunny day. It's just like, what?
right. And we're going to
134
evolve to
degrees.
something else. And the basically the gist of that conversation was with the grays. I think I just hit my camera. The grays are essentially us that have evolved to whatever we needed to be wherever they were, and we're the same
We
beings.
are
We're just different.
we are pre-gray aliens. We are
Yes.
pre-gray aliens. We're pre-aliens for sure.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what else? And it really kind of is living inside a sci-fi and an experimentation. It's really awesome to finally really realize why you're here. Um,
Right.
I've done it. I've clicked. I know what it's all about, kind of. Uh,
Yeah.
but you do have to make a science out of your head enough to be able to do that and relinquish all the other things that you use as identity anchors, like religion. But see,
Hmm.
um, for humanity or the evolution of the human to be able to develop technology, it went through a phase called what I call the void of psychosis. And so,
Hmm.
as animals relate to gravity, sunlight, offspring, food, water, So these are, and your environment in general are, they're all concrete identity formulators. So you're mean, you can be nice, you know who you are, you got your concrete identity. But
Right.
once the brain got big enough to realize that your parents weren't the beginning, and that behind
Right.
them, it's like a infinity mirror where did I really come from? All of a sudden, it put a void in that identity of security. And so
Yeah.
you and I are forced to act to help signify that gap. That's why we're plumbers. That's why we're talk show hosts. That's why we
Right.
become things, because it's an enforced action through that psychosis. And what I mean by psychosis is just not reality. So you and I can
Yeah.
never truly make reality out of where we came from, which is the engine. So
Hmm.
religion is the abscess of trying to, all religion is the abscess of trying to fill that identity. And
Right.
it's a great, I mean, religion is great because we need it. It exists because,
Yeah.
the fungus needs it, and it fills in the blank. It causes us to be civilly, bound together.
Yeah.
It helps people through tragedy. All that stuff's great, even though
Sure.
it's all pretty much historical events arranged in a way where it's going to, convince you to give them money and be a
Yeah.
part of that group. Yeah.
So, so before you started writing this book and exploring these angles, were you a different guy? Because I think that the more you would fill your head with these things and thoughts, it changes the way you approach the world.
No, I've always been this high analytic person,
Okay.
over analytic, really over analytic, and that's living in a void. But and until fungus theory, I wasn't complete. That's why when I thought of it, I just felt this cleansing sense. I relaxed all my muscles. I was like, oh, I get it. I get it. I understand it all of a sudden. I had to be a certain age. It wasn't going to happen even a year earlier.
Yeah.
But I
How old
am
were you when that happened? Because I'm just curious. I have a lot of friends who they go through a change and it's somewhere around 50 years old for a lot of people that I
was
find. Like,
56. Yeah, it was
yeah.
56.
Like the closer I get to death, the more I am open to these different thought processes. Like, for example,
Yeah.
like my soul. Like, what is my soul? Is it something that dies with me? Is it something that goes on eternally and it just keeps getting recycled? Like, I've changed my opinion so many different times over my life. But once I started somewhere around 50, my thought process changed a little bit and they started to make more sense. And I could see the universe in a more expanded sense than I did when I was younger, where
Mm.
it never even occurred to me.
Yeah, I think we just become more capable.
Yeah.
Excuse me, become more capable the older we get, because your brain basically is a hard drive, an organic hard drive, and it just receives information, and then it
Hmm.
behaves with that emotionality and experience. So it's basically information and experience is what you are made of.
Yeah.
And after you get so much of it, uh, like you're saying, you're just going to be more inclined to, become more universal. It's pretty
Yeah.
natural.
Like my
Yeah.
algorithm changed.
Right. Your
Like
algorithm.
I'm
Yeah.
seeing more of the things that I want to see and need to see versus just being all filler. Like for example, I I have a buddy and he for whatever reason I send him really muscular women videos on Instagram and he sends me dwarfs, like short people. And we just decided a few weeks ago we weren't going to do that to each other anymore and our algorithms changed overnight. And then I was like, well, let me see what else I can do. So if you look at my feed, I get fed a lot of just bullshit that's happening in the world, like government stuff, like world tragedies, all kinds of stuff, without me
Hmm.
ever even searching for it. It just shows up in my feed. And I've been more intentional lately of looking for things that are the complete opposite of that. Like I found a website that's or an Instagram page that was all about happy stuff. I sent it out to like 50 people that day because I found a video. Next thing you know, next time I was on Instagram, I was seeing all those happy things that were part of the algorithm that changed when I saw that. And when I hit 50, my algorithm changed. Like the things I was seeing and the things that are changing. were now
That's
being
the
presented to
bad
me
thing about
more often
AI.
on a more regular basis. Yeah.
That's the bad thing about AI is that it's going to program you with what it thinks you are by studying you,
Hmm.
and you're not allowed to build your own authentic self through experience anymore unless you're very aware of it and go, well,
Right.
yeah, just guide yourself through life. And
And that's why
I'm a
all the
bit even,
people that I know in their 50s are working on their authentic selves.
but like a midlife crisis kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. I think
Yeah,
it's a midlife reawakening, is what I think it is, versus a crisis.
yes, sure, yeah,
Yeah. So
reawakening.
you hit 56 and you start.
But I'm a
Where did
brainiac.
the
I'm not
idea come
normal.
to you? No, no, I get that. And I'm not either. But
Yeah.
when you're 56, like where are you at the moment this presents itself to you and you're like, I need to chase this further?
Well, I was working on science fiction, and I still am, but you want to be theoretically correct in your sci-fi. So you constantly are like, what's intuitively the future, And
Yeah.
there's trans things in it because that was becoming, and I just felt like, well, what's the next superseding human being? I thought that's
Hmm.
really what it's about. It's called smoothies because this animal in the future, this human that is, it's kind of it's a birth defect that a lot of people have all at the same time, and it's
Hmm.
a human that's born with no sex organ at all and no hair. So so
Oh,
the street name is called a smoothie.
okay.
But they get beat up and killed because if you don't have any you don't have any gender, then you no longer have 75% of your mind is thinking about the opposite sex, right?
All
Or the
right. Yeah.
same
Frees
sex.
up a
But
lot of
you're
time.
right. Try and turn it off. But these new
Yeah.
animals, these new humans didn't have any of that. So they were actually able to really critically analyze everything that they were looking at, and they know that they can't reproduce. So their mind
Right.
is trying to find a way to reproduce without natural reproduction. So in inventing this new human in this sci-fi, it just finally got me to realize, that the earth ages and it ends, and if it ends, then what happens to these people if it ends? And then it finally just started to click, and
Yeah.
then this fungus theory hit me hard. And it's one of those things that when it owns you after you think of it, you can't put it away.
Yeah.
David Lynch talks about it a lot, that when this thing hits you, you're all your molecules change. And I thought, well, I'm not going to go back to college and study physics. And I'm not a scientist. I kept telling myself that. But
Yeah.
as the weeks went on, I couldn't put it down. And I started 2, 3 things on the internet of research. And because I'm really research capable, I just couldn't get away from the computer. And things were falling on my lap as I was developing this, including about 3/4 of the way through, um, the fact that science found the earliest known fossil on the planet. It's about 900,000 years ago, a million years ago, and it's a
Yeah.
fossil. It's a fungus fossil,
Wow.
the oldest fossils. I'm like, it fell on my lap. I get to put it in my book as evidence. It's like it's been really great to really be the guy that can lasso all of the
Yeah.
ingredients to put it together.
And does it become so compulsive that it takes up all your time, or are you able to put it down, or is it
Oh
something
no,
that
I
you're
had to.
just chasing the whole time?
Oh yeah, I was chasing daily, just paying for my time off. I'd pay to sit in here and
Yeah.
just put it all together. 4, 6 hours, 8 hours a day. Went on for years, eight
Yeah.
years, and I eventually involved another uh, science student who was graduating with his physics degree, and he helped me really put things in scientific notation because I'm
Okay.
I'm kind of I'm an emotional screenplay writer that happens to be doing sci-fi, and I just fell right into it. Now I can talk science, to the end of the day. But
Sure.
but I needed somebody to really help me say, I'm trying to present this concept legitimately. So
Yeah.
Jacob was really able to help me formulate it.
And do you recall any eye-opening moments in your initial starts of your research where you knew you were on the right path?
Yep. Everything I found was telling me that. Everything I discovered, like when does the earth heat up really? Which is it
Hmm.
about 250 million years, the equator starts to boil. Then you find out that it rained for over 1 million years in Earth's early life, and then you find out that there
Yeah.
was a I didn't know there was a plant and animal fungus in the beginning together, and it still is kind of a plant and animal. If you ever eat a portobello mushroom, if you
Yeah.
get one cooked, it tastes like a steak because
Yeah.
it's
You know
meat.
what? I had a portobello hamburger a few years ago. My
Hmm.
wife had ordered it without telling me, and I
Hmm.
ate it. And I was like, this thing's great. And she's like, it's a mushroom. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like I didn't even realize it until I was
Right.
done eating it. And we were drinking that day a little bit, but it was good enough where it fooled me. And I was like, oh, that's a steak.
That's cool.
So so how do we this do we know what the first plant, animal, and fungus was, like which one particular, and is that one still around? Is that something that still grows?
There is a great study on the first plants, um, and it claims, excuse me, it's one study that claims that fungus came after plants, which is impossible. So there's a lot of studies that show you which plants came first. And ferns came first as plant life, the
Okay,
photosynthesis and then everything
sure.
else came after that. But uh, yeah, you can get into that and really just see how the earth was built, plant wise,
Yeah.
and how we got primary consumers first, which is like a cow eating that life form, and then the
Right.
secondary consumers would eat the primary consumers, right? And then there's
Yeah.
triary
I've
consumers that
never
would
even
eat.
thought about that being first and secondary consumers.
Absolutely,
It's
absolutely.
never even
Yeah,
it's occurred to me, like you're aware that things eat other things, but there was never a thought process where I said, okay, chicken before the egg kind of a thing where, what was first, the cow or the human, or was the grass or the cow? Like there's so many parts to it, but
yeah.
you don't realize that every one of these are building off of each other.
Yeah, well, that's
Meaning,
why plant
yeah,
life splits away first, right? It
okay,
needs to get ahead of things. So when something becomes amphibious, there's food for it ready. You got to feed every
yeah,
animal daily.
right,
Every animal needs to get fed daily or grows instinct, including bacteria. So that's like a timing thing that proves systematically that everything is one
sure.
fungus. It's feeding itself. That the plan was for it to be able to feed whatever crawls up
Well,
on land. This is
look at
amazing.
look at the amount of data that's in a blood cell, right? There's so
Hmm.
much in your DNA. It basically has all the instructions on how to construct you, right? And every other human that's the same. And let's say, just take a chicken, for example. Why do all chickens look the same? Because they're all working off the same formula of how they should be put together. And I
Yeah.
guess my thought process is, at the beginning of time on Earth, when the first fungi were showing up, somewhere in all that fungi is that information already there, and it just gets
It can't develop it without it going into the composition of the planet. So
right. But is there a
right, there's
game plan that's already written in whatever that is, that is there's
the
so
only
much data there that it says, okay, these are our steps?
no the game plan is to be the fungus that doesn't have any of that. And that fungus
Okay.
is on every single biosphere that formulates. It's the
Yeah.
same fungus because it needs to do what you're talking about, adapt to the composition of that planet. So say there's another
Hmm.
like planet, which
Yeah.
by the way, the James Webb has not found one, which is an
Yeah.
indicator of the solitude you need for us to do all our technical work so we own our own technology. See that?
Right.
So we won't
Well,
really
you
find
think of, like, the closest star is 4 light years away, and if we can even get close to light speed, like just under light speed, like 99.9, I think it's still 197,000
4,000
miles
years from
away.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's some crazy
4,000
amount.
years.
And so and we're just part of one galaxy, and there's so many. And
Oh,
does
it's
every
thick.
star have all the information that or the ingredients to populate whatever solar system that's part of it, because we're all star seeds and we're all made from whatever's was at the creation of time and everything in the universe.
Well,
It,
there's already a system to that. So our sun is a
yeah.
secondary sun, right?
Okay.
So it was a star once, it condensed and then exploded and became a secondary star. So that
Okay.
explosion put all the ingredients out into a protoplanetary disk. So our sun
Okay.
looked like a big, huge Saturn, right, with a big ring around it,
Yeah.
more of like a disk. And that starts to clump together and become gravitational pulling and forms all these planets in the ring of
Right.
temperature. So Mercury was so hot, it made a little planet. Mercury was kind of a twin to Earth, but it wasn't in the right temperature area. So when the
Yeah.
fungus forms on any planet out there, it's going to rely on gathering up the minerals of that bombardment of that particular planet's bombardment, which can be different from
Hmm.
the birth of our solar system and another. Well, it is going to be different. Drastically,
Yeah.
no, because you need all the ingredients. But a planet might have more silver than gold, for instance,
Right.
or one planet might have more gold than silver. So
Sure.
the fungus needs to work and goes into the minerals and finds what you're talking about, how to develop the
Yeah.
DNA for that particular structured animal, for that particular
So
animal's growth of gravity here, how
yeah.
much
So it
water is
doesn't
that.
have all the information at the beginning. It's adapting and changing as it needs to
Right.
do whatever it needs to using whatever supplies are available to survive.
Right. So what do you do if you don't have enough sugar to make your cake? You do that. And that's that's, you're the cook, but
Yeah.
what do I got? Right. And so it's
Right.
really weird that your body is 71% water, give and take,
Right.
and the earth is 71% water. So maybe on another planet there's 80% water and the body has 80% water in it
Yeah.
because the fungus grew on that planet in its development. It's really just it's great to,
Yeah,
to feel like this
it's
stuff is real.
mind-boggling. Oh yeah, I love this kind of stuff. Like this is so much fun to talk about these kind of things because it's it makes sense. And that's the
It
part
makes
that's hard to
sense.
wrap. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it makes sense because, you know, to think that we're the only ones out there is crazy, right? Like I have a theory. If you look at where we're at in the Milky Way, we're on like an inside curve all the way towards the front, like of the curve. We're that planet is we're like that island in the Pacific that nobody's supposed to go visit because every time somebody comes here, we do something stupid to them, and you know they kill the natives, kill you. Uh, so we're on our own to get out of here, and you know everything else is so far away. And if the fungus is the goal is to eventually use all the resources possible to get itself off, it's got to be happening elsewhere in the universe
Yeah. It's
at a
the same
different rate, and it might
yeah,
be completely different, but it's still doing the same exact thing, the goal.
right. And as the physics uh the accidental, almost accidental way that a biosphere forms in a solar system, and the James Webb's proving that. There's other biosphere, but they're full of water. There's some reason why animals aren't going to grow there,
Right.
at least what we found so far. But the fact that our biosphere is so far away from another one is systematic as well. And I've talked about that earlier, that that's so that we generate and develop our own technology and earn our own technology ourselves. We get off of the planet on our own. We earn that. And it's called a
Yeah.
matured consciousness. So right now we're in adolescent consciousness because we have gravity,
Okay.
food, and it's fun. We're having a great time. But really in the
Yeah.
end, you got to get down to brass tacks about how to survive off this thing. And
Yeah. At
if you
some
can
point,
do
it's
it,
going to be crunch time, right?
right, crunch time. But you will have earned, you will have earned your own existence as though you were your own God, and that's a matured consciousness
Yeah.
at that
That's
point.
amazing. I find it fascinating that you would be sitting around when this thought came to you, was it during a conversation with somebody else or were you by yourself and it just popped into your head while you were doing some other research?
No, I think what happened, the phenomenon of what happened was that I'm just really intense about tidbits. So
Yeah.
I'm not a book reader.
Yep.
I'd rather, I'd rather fix stuff and make stuff. But I do pay attention to every little tidbit, whether it's a documentary, a piece of news, read an article, and my mind just really wanted come down to the answer to this thing all my childhood and adulthood. So I think I gathered enough of those strong tidbits,
Yeah.
and my mind is mecha capable. A lot of people's minds aren't mecha capable, meaning billions of bits coming down to one point. But it
Hmm.
took all the way into my 50s to accumulate enough for what I call the kaboom to happen, which is an
Yeah.
accident. Believe me, I didn't want to think fungus theory. I wasn't
Right.
trying to think fungus theory. It's like, okay, in fact, no, I don't want to think fungus theory. Thank you very much. But I'm an accountable individual, and I'm also a
Yeah.
theorist and a conceptual artist. So I thought, man, that there's a responsibility here if I'm right.
Right.
And it just snowballed into this
So
reality.
when this reality sets in and you start having conversations with other people, do people look at you like you're nuts when you first start talking about it, or
Absolutely.
does it make sense after the 8 years, or like at the in the first couple years, everybody looks at you like you're nuts?
Yeah, it was this guy going, guess what? We're a fungus. And they look at me crazy. And then there's some people that go, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. So I was like kind of
Yeah,
intuitively honest. Some people were like clicking. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go with it and keep doing this. And
yeah.
uh
And, and as you're researching it and you're finding all the synchronicities where things are all connected, does it open yourself? How does it change the way you view life? Because, we're here for a limited time, and the things you do, like the things you're talking about, there's a responsibility as humans to continue that process. And when you start talking to people about our responsibility to, even it might be a
like a call
million
to
years
action.
away. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, how do people wrap their heads around it and understand that, you know, as minuscule as we are in the broad scheme of the universe, and one of the most important eye-opening things I ever had was when I realized how unimportant I was and how big the
Yeah,
universe
me
was.
too.
It freed me
Yeah.
up to think about things differently, right? I'm not special. I'm part of something that's way bigger. And as you're talking to these people and trying to get people on board with the idea of responsibility, where your actions now may help people, like, what's the line? It says the plant trees so people can sit under the shade of the leaves that you'll never see. Right? It's
Hmm.
I know
Hmm.
I screwed that up, but there's a saying somewhere along that lines where, you know, if you do those things now, those future people will benefit. And when you're trying to express to people like, hey, I have this theory, this is what we all come from, and this is where we're all headed. We have a responsibility to do more of the right thing. Is that a tough responsibility to bear as being the guy who has the knowledge and trying to convince people?
Well, I thought of that for a long time. And if the fungus is correct, and if you looked at
Hmm.
all the human animals today that have evolved into today, right?
Yeah.
Um, then the fungus has made everything it needs today. So you really can't say that a couch potato shouldn't be a couch potato. See, it
Yeah.
made it. The fungus made that couch potato. It needed it. Things that go
Yeah.
instinct, it doesn't need anymore, and could
Right.
be hindrance in achieving its primary goal. So they fall out. They've done their job as a species, and then they unevolved. So the couch potato too will eventually become extinct when the fungus doesn't need it or becomes a hindrance for its primary goal. So you just
Yeah.
trust it that it's always doing everything from uh like the void of psychosis too. Everything from like Elon to mass murder, or even just murderer. It needs it all to get the technology to work.
Yeah.
It's tough to make a conclusion like that. But
It's all
everything,
moving in the same direction, whether you see it or not.
the reason why do we know DNA so well today? It's because we're trying to solve murders. That was the whole
Yeah.
industry behind really discovering DNA and really getting it RNA and all that stuff. So if you don't have a killing and a murder to really solve, then you don't develop the technologies to do that. And all
Right.
these technologies work together to eventually be able to leave Earth, a
Yeah. Well,
technical
I mean, think of the
evacuation.
things you learn from DNA. You can learn what somebody's possible health in the future might be. You can eliminate certain things. It's all figuring out how to perpetuate life by
It's
at
going to
least
get so
that
crazy.
aspect of it.
It's going to
Yeah.
get so crazy. The CRISPR that's going on right now,
Yeah.
what uh, it'll be all be humane, but eventually we'll be living to 150 years for sure. And there'll be
Right.
some selective choices on perfecting the human being so it doesn't get certain diseases, or cancer will be
Yeah.
eliminated. In 50 years, cancer is going to be eliminated. I mean, just think about it.
Yeah.
100 years from now, I wish it was around
Totally
and
different.
it's crazy. And then in 1,000 years, it's
Yeah.
scheduled that our brains will get so intelligent that communication, verbal communication, will be considered analog and
Okay. That'd be
too
more telepathic.
right, too slow to survive. Uh, so if I'm explaining something to you, it might be too late.
Right.
So it's
A-
gonna, eventually we
And
won't
and
communicate.
where does AI and technology come into all this? Because I feel like you've probably done some excessive thinking about that. Because there's gonna be a point where we are so blended that you can't really tell one from the other, and we'll
It's
be
called a mind
missing
hive.
certain. Okay.
It's called a
And we'll be
mind
missing
hive.
certain
Right.
skills that are no longer available to us anymore because we just don't use them. They become extinct, just because there's not a necessity for them.
Right. Like log cabin making.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a good example. We still make log cabins, but
sure.
it's not the going technology. Uh, I mean, those things evolve out and become extinct just like any other animal. Just it's not in use, critically in use for the main goal.
Right.
And but just as a whole function, that you and I are basically a protospore. We
Hmm.
wouldn't be capable of being an actual spore. So you can just tell the genetics that have to get involved here, the manipulation in order to get a human to live on Mars. I mean, this is a great
Yeah,
first step in understanding what the fungus needs. It needed a Mars to 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 branch out and put a human there to see why it died, and then just
yeah,
keep making it live longer and longer and longer. And eventually, if because the Earth does heat up, we're going to have to what I call the burrow revolution, where we're going to have to live underground. And basically, when
yeah,
you do that, you really go down to 1% of the culture that used to live on the surface. So you're
yeah,
already becoming an astronaut by living underground, a salamander
yeah.
basically. And now you're changing you're being forced to change your food and your diet. Make it yourself, live
Sure.
in your own. You're going to get used to not having any radiation on your skin. Uh,
Yeah.
maybe that's where you
Your
become a
eyes
little
might get bigger
gray.
because it's
Right.
darker. Like
You got it.
so many features.
It's just going to happen. You become a gray alien on Earth naturally, just to
Yeah.
survive from the radiation. And when you and these are like not theories. These are like this is going to
No,
happen.
and you can go forever on these kind of thought
Yeah,
processes and go down a rabbit hole
yeah,
and just keep going and going and going. So
yeah.
so I mean, we're either going to heat up and things are going to be like we'll have to get off the planet, or we'll overpopulate and we'll wind up killing all the things that feed us because the growth of other animals can't keep up. Like there's going to be a point where something needs to happen where we need to exit this place and go somewhere else. And then when we go somewhere else, eventually there's going to be a point there as well where things keep changing and evolving and you have to move on.
Ah, that's just it.
And
We don't
yeah,
go
and
anywhere. We don't go anywhere
no,
because we go into a large spaceship. That's the exobiosphere that that's our mother
yeah,
home forever. The thing is that if you try to go to another planet and walk on that planet, you're going to get a disease from that planet. That
for
biology is
sure.
completely different, and you'd erase that whole entire race, in a second. So, but we'll know all that at that time, and in 1 million years from now, we're going to know what that really means if you can really go to another planet. I'm saying not, because that planet's doomed
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So,
They
so,
all are.
so just yeah, they all are. Eventually, it's not even going to be any light. It's called the end of light epoch, where there's no more
Yeah.
light. And you look at your spaceship, all you see is your hand. You see your hand, but where am I going? It's
Right.
all can't go anywhere.
There's a video that I've watched probably 100 different times. It's narrated by um, David Attenborough, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Brian
Mm,
Cox,
hmm.
Michio Kaku, all these people. It's the end of the universe is the video. It's called, and it's about
I think I've
35
seen it.
minutes. And
Mhm.
the graphics and the music on it are amazing. But it talks about every 5 seconds in the video, it time doubles the amount of time that's passed. And by the time you get to the end of the video, there is nothing left except I think it was protons or neutrons flying through the universe and light. Like just rays of light that just never connect to anything and they never bounce off anything. And they just that's all it is. And and they get to a point where they're talking about like every star is blowing up and there's one every 60 seconds, and then before you know it, those all start colliding, and then we have black holes, and then there's black holes diminish. Like there's an ending to everything, but it's so far away that it's hard to really comprehend or pay attention to. But there's also an ending for humanity, like we're talking about, where something needs to change, and that's the fungus using us to perpetuate itself somewhere else. Am I right
Yeah,
with
I've heard
that?
the word using us before. Sounds like is using us. It's not using us. We are the fungus.
Right.
We,
Yeah,
we
we're
we-
part
you
of
know
the overall thing.
we are the ultimate spore of
Yeah.
that planetary's fungal growth. So
Right.
if we meet our technical standards and leave, say we're getting out of here, great, we're gonna be gone 1,000 years
Yeah.
before the sun blows. And we look back, we're at Pluto, and we look back at the sun, and we watch the sun come and goes, it expands and eats the earth, and we go, whew, close one, right? This
Yeah.
is a reality. It's not a theory, it's a reality. If we can
Right.
get to the point where we can watch that event that
Yeah.
is coming, right? Because when you can embody the event, then you know why you're here on Earth, and that's why I keep
Yeah.
saying you got to embody that event. Um, we can get to that point. I forgot what my original idea was that I was going to say, but it's an important point to make that is the ultimate goal. And if we
Yeah.
can get there, we're literally the spore, the surviving spore
Hmm.
from that fungus that burnt. That's what I was going to say. We're watching the fungus burn.
Yeah.
We are the fungus, but we're the spore of it.
It's
Metaphorically,
interesting. Like fungus in general, like what's the largest living thing in the on the world? Is there's a fungus, I think, somewhere on the West Coast
it's an organ, yeah.
that's yeah, it's under or it's in Oregon, and it's
Amagil, I can't pronounce the word, but
yeah, and it's connected, and it goes for a like it's like the size of a state, from what I understand. It's gigantic. And when they look at trees communicating with each other, they're using mushrooms under the underground. And if you want to expand your brain, what do you take? Mushrooms, right? It's just a fungus,
yeah,
and it opens your eyes to these other things. Like it's all interconnected and starts from that, it sounds like.
it's still all one fungus. It's hard to see it, but
Yeah.
eventually, if you study all these bits of evidence, you can back up and say, "Oh gosh, it's all one fungus, and I'm the spore of this fungus." It really comes down to that. But mycelia is interesting. It does. Uh, it gets nutrients from the roots of the forest, and it also gives
Hmm.
sugar. I guess it's the fungus that gets sugar, and then the mycelia gives nutrients to the trees. It also tells the trees where to go put their roots and where not.
Wow.
So it's really it's kind of
Yeah.
like the foundation of everything. So we can have
It's
oxygen.
it's Yes, it's
It's
insane. And the once I got to the point where I understood that we're all one and one is all, it made things different for me. Meaning,
Mhm.
what you're talking about is we're all part of the same, and I use the word machine, but it's not a machine. We're
The
all
goal.
part of the same growth process,
Mhm.
originating from the same spot and all moving in the same direction, whether we realize it or not.
It's so involuntary that it's almost gross to think that, I'm being controlled by all this stuff. That's not the point because,
Yeah,
but, and on that point, that is the proof of free will. Because if you're so strictly governed to grow with this thing and that you are this thing growing, the opportunity to have free will exists because of that. And
yeah,
and that means and pardon the term, but suicide is the most proof of free will that we have. It's completely a free will to
yeah.
check out.
Yeah, you can decide that you don't want to be here anymore.
Right. And you can decide when you're tired of your involuntary enforced life form. And
Yeah,
plenty of people do. In fact, the leading cause of death is not heart disease and it's not cancer. It's suicide.
yeah,
So there's evidence showing that people need to learn about fungus theory. That's the way I look at it. If
yeah.
you could
Right.
understand
It's all
who you
connected.
well,
So,
you need to understand why you're here. And just so that you
yeah,
can accept yourself under a tree, under the leaves you're talking about. If you can just sit there and say, hey, at least I exist. This is great. And I know why, then you can get rid of all the garbage, all the confusion and all the abuse that has really made you, psychologically, incorrect in your life. That's not your fault.
yeah,
When you can fix yourself by understanding that other people have to be abusive or why they were, and you can really become something huge. In fact, abuse is really the reason why anybody's really smart. You know,
yeah.
they had to they had to, they
And
had to survive it.
where in the process did these type of thoughts start coming to, where you start understanding how the world works? Right? Yeah, obviously you're probably sitting there one day and you're like, oh, everything comes from here. But then you start realizing the deeper intricacies of everything, how it's all connected, whether it's, you know, suffering or joy or pain, it's all part of the same thing.
Yeah.
And like, at, at what point do you have that epiphany, or is that something you already understood going
Well,
into your process?
I think I always was a natural enthusiast for psychology, natural and evolution. So those two things were really, I was always,
Yeah.
writing jokes of the day as a teenager, trying to solve people's problems. I've always been that empathetic person. Um, so after you accumulate enough experience, you just step back and you can see the whole collage. You're no longer
Okay.
a part of a puzzle part. You're now zoomed back and you can see the whole puzzle. It's like, oh, I see the puzzle. But I had to
Yeah.
go into each puzzle part and place it. It seemed like I did that kind of mass work through my
Yeah.
life.
The, the, the way I've always described life, yeah, do you remember the store Spencer's? I don't know if you have those in California, but it's like a novelty
No, I remember
store.
Spencer's.
And they used
Right.
to have these
I got a lava lamp.
pictures that would hang
Mm,
on the wall. Remember the digital pictures? You know, it just looks like pixels. And then you sit and relax your eyes and you start
that's
to
right.
allow yourself to see those things. And now you always see the ship in the corner. You always see the lighthouse that's down in the left hand side. Now you see the waves over here. And once you see them, there's no chance that you ever can't find those again or can't see
That's
them
right.
because you
That's right.
understand they're there and how to find them. And that's the way I think about life. And for you to have this theory of the fungus and then that theory evolve into understanding humanity and how people react with each other and how people interact is amazing to me because it's taken a life of its own, and maybe it's the fungus guiding you along that path to gain that knowledge and using you for whatever purpose it is, like the guy on the couch watching TV. We all have our purpose, and yours is to share the
Well, there was
knowledge
Isaac
and
Newton.
to push people to perpetuate.
Yeah, and I'm not comparing myself to anybody, believe me, but Isaac Newton, that's
No,
an anomaly. That's like you're asking the same question to that guy. I mean, how do you put all of that together back then? I mean,
Right.
he started during a COVID. There was a COVID back then. He could, it was house arrest. He couldn't leave, so that's what really started him to do the work. But
Yeah.
I think the fungus,
Was
what
that
I call,
Spanish flu? Or no, it was
oh
probably
yeah,
prior to
yeah,
that.
I think it was, yeah. But
Okay.
the fungus, we'll call it the collective conscious. Excuse me. You and I are
Yeah.
part of the collective conscious. That is the fungus's experimental body, um, but it can't grow like a growth product unless it
Hmm.
gets spikes. And spikes are like Einstein, Elon Musk, and uh, Newton were all spikes
Yeah.
that help lift the rest of the fungus up further into technology and awareness. So
Yeah.
that's one thing we couldn't do it without those guys
No. And I
as
love
a
it. I
tech
also
guy.
love the idea of, and I don't recall the term for it, when people are presented with the same thought at the same time in various parts of the world with the same inventions. Like I don't recall the exact thing for it, but it seems to happen often with these, like Thomas Edison. There was someone else at the same time who came up with some similar ideas, and it's
Yep,
all in the same time frame. And now here we are moving into space, and you got all these people that are on the
sure.
same page, but they're not working together, but they're still coming up with some of the same ideas.
Yeah, like the
Like
same stonework around the world at the same time. There wasn't even
yeah,
travel back then. How's that happen? Because the human brain is the same everywhere, and it's expanding at the same rate and learning and exploring experimenting at the same time everywhere. So
yeah,
your brain is going to do what I call the oh duh. Oh duh.
right.
See, do you see it? It's working everywhere.
Yeah. I love all the ideas that we're talking about today. Tell me about the book a little bit more. How is the book written? Is it a science fiction type book? I didn't get a chance to read it because it's hard to read every book whenever I talk to people, but I
Yeah,
would
right.
love to get, like, is it a scientific based book? Is it a manual? Like what is the book, and how should people present it or read it, and what would they get from it in the process of reading it?
It's a book of facts, evidence, and historical events with
Okay.
some futurism because of that. So the futurism is based on facts, evidence, and historical events. So there really isn't a theory about it. It's just
Hmm.
boring facts about what really is. And the things that are skeptical have been taken out or just used as a little bit of support because there's really no skepticism in here. It's touched on
Yeah.
everything. There's 5 chapters: a cosmology, biology, evolution, technology, and psychology. And those are the 5 main veins of science. So it touches
Okay.
on everything. And the motto I like to use is everything is science and is only
Yeah.
one science for the growth of consciousness to its maximum in a
Wow.
cold, dark vacuum that we like to call the universe. Well, we just named it that.
I
It's
yeah.
it's a cold, dark vacuum. And so really what it's about is it's all about, in my opinion, maximum conscious growth. So you and I are
Yeah.
conscious, we're a growth product, but we're not the maximum. We're the beginning of what will eventually become a
Right.
maximum growth. And at that time, at the end of light, like you were explaining, there's no more light, there's just photons floating around or whatever.
Yeah.
I imagine that whoever the creator was that stimulated this growth process will come to harvest it. And I call it the unigalactic conscious harvest.
Okay. And what happens when he harvests it?
That's all I can do is name it. I don't know what happens. But
Yeah. I think you and I could probably talk for days.
well, we'll have to do
Um,
another one sometime.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And honestly, I'm a mushroom guy and I'm a weed guy. I don't drink. And
cool.
if I would have done either one of those before this, it probably would have taken a whole nother route because I love the concept. I love the idea of the start of everything. And I'm talking about the book in particular. And I love the part where like the psychology of it comes in. That's the part that has amazed me through this entire conversation is, yeah, you're talking about all those other parts, but there's a big psychology piece at the end of it where we understand we're connected and there's a consciousness. And that
It's
part,
about psychology. Yeah.
yes, and it brings it all together because that's why I was asking you, like, hey, were you a deep guy before this? Because
Yeah.
I think right, but I didn't quite understand the psychology of where you were going at that point in the conversation. And
Yeah.
now I do. And I agree with you, like, yeah, there's a responsibility for all of us to keep the fungus moving in the direction that it wants, and we
Yeah. Once
have
you're
our roles.
cognitive, once you're
Yeah, and
cognizant or cognitive, it's almost
yeah,
it's like you're breaking a natural law to not react to it.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And it's that, like, you ever watch like a comedy movie and they say breaking that fourth wall where the comedian kind of turns to you and talks to you?
Right.
Like I feel like that's what's happening with the universe every now and then. Like I'll have a moment where, like, hey, it's like, hey man,
Your
pay
fourth wall
attention
in
to
the
this.
universe. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So what's the name of the book? Where can people find it? Where can they find you? And I'm 100% sure we're going to have another conversation at some point.
Good. Good.
And this was more of a get to know you, figure out the book, but I think we could get really deep on a couple of these things. And I would love to do that. But where can people connect with you socially with the book? Where can they find everything?
Well, my book's on Amazon under Fungus Theory of Conscious Growth. And my website is marklchristensen.com.
Hmm.
That's
Okay.
basically it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed this. We're definitely going to talk again. And if you just hang on one sec, I'm gonna wrap it up and then I'll just talk to you for one more sec. Hang on one sec.
Awesome. Awesome.